So, moving on to mods. All right, so instead of handing it to Down Phoenix, I'll talk about this first. Okay, so mods in Fallout. There were mods in the previous games, like in the first game where you could upgrade your plasma rifle, which was pretty badass, making it use one less action point to shoot. And but it was kind of limited there. And then in Fallout 2, you actually had mods where you could attach something to your weapons to give it more ammo or give it burst fire or something like that. Still limited, but it was there. 3 didn't really have any mods going for it because
Did have repairs though.
okay, yeah, but that didn't really but that's not really a mod. So like
Right.
I
And
meant something that would change the weapon and like the way it functions.
yeah, it didn't really have mods, but it had more of a crafting system. Like
Yes,
you,
it did.
You can
Yes,
create things, but yeah.
Yeah, not counting that. But yeah, it did. And I don't think made use of that function in 4 if it was ever there. But in New Vegas, it did the same thing with Fallout 2 where you could get certain pieces of like mod pieces that you can add onto your weapons. Like you could add a scope to your hunting rifle, a laser sighters, like faster chambering and all that stuff. Limited, but it was still there. Fallout 4, the modding is amazing. I gotta say, I spent so many hours, or at least from what's available to you, to
Yeah.
mod whatever you want, make your gun more powerful, make it shoot faster, make it more accurate, and all that stuff. And it's pretty awesome. When I saw the little bits of footage I saw of Fallout 4, the modding really got me kind of hooked. I was like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool," and it is. Although once you have you've put points into the modding perks, it kind of actually gets a little weaker towards the end because you're always going to be getting the best mods, right? I mean, why would you ever get like the weakest mods? There's no benefit to it, and the only reason you got those earlier was because you weren't able to use the higher mods. And there are some differences, like for instance with the guns, you could put automatic fire or non-automatic. I never really used the non-automatics because the damage reduction was really low. Like it only did 1/3 of what the non-automatic would do. And but still, going back to the mods, it's pretty awesome, and I really liked it. It's really free and open.
Yeah, the mods were really nice the way they implemented it. I mean, it takes a couple different things. First of all, if you're a fan of a game series like Borderlands, where there is like randomly generated guns
And
that you can have like millions of different kinds of guns,
and
this
never
is-
getting the one you want.
yeah, exactly. Well, in this game, it's kind of like that, except you eventually can get the one you want because you can pick out different pieces, different scopes and stocks and magazines and barrels and all kinds of stuff, for these guns. And there's even some modding with the melee, but like the actual melee combat, that's kind of really bare bones.
And then it's not helped by the fact that the modding for the melee weapons is less. Like with Down Phoenix says with the guns, like how many things could you mod on the gun, Down Phoenix? Like just like the categories.
There's for some weapons, there's 12 or more categories of things you can choose.
Well, okay, no, wait. I meant sort of like the class, like barrel, magazine, stock,
yeah,
scope,
that's what
and
I'm
all that.
referring to. For some weapons, there's like 12 or more different things you can kind of sort through, like different categories is what I mean. Not like 12 possible attachments total, but yeah.
But in each one, there's like a whole ton you could do.
Yeah, some of them were kind of limited, but sometimes you had like a dozen or more different types of attachments for each weapons. Like you could have like 16 different scopes well, maybe not scopes, but like
Sights.
16 different magazine options, for instance, that can change the caliber of the bullet and can change how many rounds are held, change the rate of fire, and all kinds of stuff like that.
But with the melee, there's only like just one option. Change
Yeah, there's like barbed wire, spikes, electricity.
yeah, like say with the baseball bat, you get you can put nails in it, you could put barbed wire, and then maybe put it on fire. That's it. literally it. But with a pistol, like what can you do with a pistol? You can put a night vision scope on it. You could have a large quick release magazine, fast firing chamber, and all that stuff. Like a melee just is like in Fallout 4. It's just sucks.
Right.
I almost wonder why it's even in this game at points.
Yeah, I think it kind of makes sense given the time frame, though, because we have to consider the world that Fallout takes place in. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic world like ours, kind of. I mean, guns are obviously the popular weapon of choice nowadays. How many times when you hear about somebody getting killed, is it by a samurai sword or an axe or something like that? Not very often. Usually it's somebody getting shot. And
That's a funny. Or
Yeah.
when I say funny, I don't mean like ha ha funny. Like that's a kind of amusing way to talk about that or compare.
Right, so it kind of just makes sense, going into that kind of world, going from now to an eventual nuclear war that might have happened in a couple hundred years past. Guns are still going to be the most popular weapon of choice, so it kind of makes sense in this game's universe. I guess I'm just a little disappointed that there wasn't more to do with the melee gear.
Yeah, I mean, but then like when you think about it, there really isn't much you could have done with the melee to a certain degree. Because there's a Deathclaw gauntlet in this game, and there's only one mod for it, and that's just to add an extra nail to make it do more damage. Really disappointing. Like you couldn't coat it in poison or do something like make the claws sharper so they did more damage or something like that. And just the melee's disappointing with it. What about the power armor mods?
Oh, the power armor is a really interesting addition to Fallout 4. It works a lot differently from the other games. It's actually really interesting that you can get the power armor within like the first hour or so of the game, like hour and a half.
Which sounds like, the game blew its load, right? But once you get it and then discover there are different armor types and you can actually upgrade your armor, then it doesn't look as ridiculous. And considering
Plus you have a scarcity to the armor system as well. Like in the other games, once you get the power armor, it might not be until at least halfway through the game, if not further. But once you get it, you're wearing it the whole game, essentially. It's like, whatever.
You never take it
that's
off.
your armor. Yeah. In this game, there is a lot more scarcity with it because you actually have to fuel the armor with the fusion cores that you find.
Which, in the beginning, they are kind of hard to find, but at the end of my playthrough, I had like almost 80 of them. So
yeah,
it's a matter of time.
Yeah, I mean, you can explore and you can find them and you can
buy
barter for
them.
them and things like that. But at the beginning, they are really hard to come by. So you can't just walk around in power armor like you could in the classic.
Yeah, they changed it. Basically, to dumb this down for all of you who don't know, power armor in the previous game, once you wear it, it's just like regular armor. But in Fallout 4, they're battery powered. So big difference. Yeah. Anyways,
Definitely.
so the mods
it introduces a scarcity mechanic because you do have to find those fusion cores. Of course, later on in the game, you still you end up having a bunch, and so you can do a few missions in a row that are really tough and not run out.
And if you're smart, you'd get the nuclear physicist, which gives your fusion cores twice the amount of power to give your power armor, and the unfortunate side effect of shooting your fusion cores out by accident.
What?
Okay, like in the perk system, the nuclear physicist or whichever one that gives you it extends the time of the fusion core. The final perk skill of that, like the level 5 skill, if you have no grenades in your inventory and you're in a power armor and you hold the grenade button, you launch your fusion core out and it causes a small nuclear bomb behind you.
Wow. I had no idea.
Okay, but this is not as useful as it sounds because you can accidentally fire off a full battery load and just be like, "Wait, why am I running out of fusion cores?" And then that just goes to waste. You can't get it back. So
not to mention if you're doing this while you're next to a wall.
Yeah, you could literally just accidentally kill yourself with it.
Yeah, that's nice.
But yeah, the power armor mods there's upgrading the armor to make it more durable, and probably my favorite is attaching a jetpack to it. I think everyone did that.
Yeah, and I also like how it changes the UI of the game whenever you equip the power armor. it actually gives you a sense that you're inside this power armor that's got all these different displays and things like that going on, and that's kind of a really cool feature
Yeah, that's
that
that's
they
really a nice touch they did. They weren't lazy with it like in the previous games where it's the same HUD that you were always using. Nice little
right.
detail. Yeah, there were also like things of the power armor mod. Like I always like putting like the calibrated servos to make me carry more items. That was a really useful skill. And I was kind of disappointed at the arms, like the mods for the arms, aside from like increasing its durability, because you needed melee mods to like make it do stuff, and I was like, what, really?
Yeah. Well, I guess that was one way they kind of made that a little more useful to have.
Sort of, but it didn't really do much. Like it gave you like bladed arms or like energy punches, and it's like, how often are you gonna punch people? I mean, it doesn't really do that much.
Yeah. I guess, if you did want to play a specific character build and you have the self control to set it up, then yeah, have at it. Make your own giant mecha robot,
Yeah, or
Power
a mech
Ranger.
suit.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be funny though, seeing like a Megazord mod of like the power armor.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure it's got to exist if it doesn't already.
Oh, that's gotta be funny.
And it's going to, anyways.
Oh, anyways, going on about the power armor, they Fallout 4 also changes one thing that the previous Fallout 3 and New Vegas did. Did you notice how you didn't need to repair your weapons or armor at all, except for the
Oh,
power
yeah.
armor? I was like, that was kind of like a nice welcome break from it, because like because in the previous games, if your weapons get degrade enough, they do less damage. They start malfunctioning, and that was a cool mechanic. But after a while, it kind of did get a little annoying. So it was a nice break that you didn't have to repair shit in this game, except your power armor. So at least they kept the idea in somewhere, but at least they kept it to one thing.
Yeah, they took down it basically dumbed down the micromanagement. You didn't have to micromanage nearly as much when it came to your equipment and things like that. That was really nice touch on their part. But they did still keep it somewhat of course with the power armor. Again, like I said, I believe it goes into the whole scarcity element of the power armor. You get it right away, but you can't use it all the time.
At least not until you get really far in the game, because I ended up using it like all the time afterwards.
Yeah. Well, yeah, once you get to that point, yeah, it's just like you have so much of that resource that why not use it? What's the point of not using it? Plus, in some situations, you kind of have to when the game does get tougher.
Yeah, it's completely an option. It's a badass option.
Yeah.
What was it? Did you ever find a point in mixing up armor parts? Because I found it kind of dumb. Like pointless dumb.
What do you mean by that?
Like, there's like the first armor you get is the T45, and then there's the T51, the T60, and then the X01 power armor pieces, and it's like I don't know. I think I got the impression that the game wanted you to mix and match all the pieces and parts, and I'm like, why? What's the
Yeah, I
point?
guess you could. I think the whole point of it is just like with the mod system. There are a ton of different upgrades you can do, but some obviously are better than others. But some you can't do right away. Maybe you don't have the necessary skills. Maybe you don't have the necessary materials to make those upgrades.
Well, see, here's the thing. Like all the power armors have the exact same like mods you can do for them. It's just that some are better than the other. Like, for instance, the T45 armor, the first one you get, can have like the armor plating level F, which is not the same as the T51, which has more durability and like is a lot stronger. So basically what I'm saying is I don't know why you have the option to like interchange parts, because the power armors work best as a set is basically what I'm saying. Like, why would you mix a really weak part with a really strong part? Because they all have the same mods. It's just one's really weak compared to the other.
The only thing I could think of for sure on that is sometimes you can find parts scattered in the wasteland, separate from like a full suit. And so if you find like a slightly better armor or whatever, why not attach it to your current suit?
I suppose, but like, after a while, like when you get the full parts, it's like you don't really use the previous parts. You can actually get your companions to wear power armor, which was pretty sweet. except for the fact that they keep getting it destroyed, or at least they find an excuse to get it destroyed. Like, did you ever get them into a power armor suit?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, you kind of have to when you find new suits. If you're already traveling around with the power armor and you find a new one, and you want to just leave the one you're in at that location,
or like use up a fusion core to move it.
Right.
You don't have to, but it helps.
Yeah,
it helps it because your companions don't use up fusion cores. You don't have to give any to them, which is good. Although I don't know what happens if you do give it to them. I wonder if their combat efficiency like just goes up because like you can operate a power armor without the fusion core, but you'd start walking like a slug, and it really sucks.
I guess they probably just made those changes with as far as the companions is so you didn't have to like micromanage them. The same thing with like ammunition, like for guns. You didn't have to like give them a crap load of bullets for a gun for them to use it.
Yeah, and whenever you do, they kind of tend to burn through them as I find. Although that's not fair, being that I only give them so little. But yeah, anything else you want to say about the mods? The modding in Fallout 4 is really great. I hope they continue to do it and give more options with it.
And not to mention the mods, like the actual PC mods, will definitely expand upon that as well. Not to mention all the tons of other possibilities with that. Which we weren't talking about mods, we were talking about the modding system of the
modding
weapons,
the game,
like that. Not the actual PC mods, just to like in case somebody is like confused for like the last 10 minutes, like what are you talking about?
Yeah, like the equipment and things you can tweak your weapons and items with. Oh
yeah.
Oh wait, no, you could like tweak your armor to make it more durable and have certain effects, like be more silent or have bigger pockets.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's all the changes I listed off in Fallout 4 that I can think of. I don't know if Down Phoenix has anything that he can add where it's like what's something that existed in the previous game that Fallout 4 changed?
Well, there is a smaller change with the way conversations work.
Okay, we'll bring that up.
So, we can kind of touch on this just slightly because in the classic games, obviously, your character didn't have any voice whatsoever. I mean, your character did say stuff, but
no voice.
There is no voice. Whereas there is an actual voice actor that you had in this game now.
Which it's like, I kind of don't prefer it because it's like if I project myself in the game, I don't sound like that guy. I'd rather just have with like the not silent protagonist, but the no voice protagonist, and just have people around referring to me.
Yeah, it had a lot more of a Mass Effect-ish conversation system as far as.
Yes, it did. Everything seems to be going after the Mass Effect-ness of it.
Yeah, because I kind of get that because it's a nice free-flowing conversation, and you don't have to read subtitles or anything like that to understand what's going on.
Oh yeah, a lot of people were complaining about the conversation piece where it's like how it'll say something like it gives you like the options it tells you, it says it'll say this but you're not sure what your character will actually say. People were complaining about that and I'm like, so what?
I never liked that in games personally, and Mass Effect is kind of the worst offender as far as that because it seemed like you had one option and like, why the hell did he say that? That's not what it sounded like,
That's not
this game isn't quite as bad in that regard. Like
it's not what you expected them to say when you click that option.
Right. Exactly. And I guess that kind of, for some people, maybe that kind of introduces the fun into it. But, I guess I kind of like to have control over the conversation. Like, I want to know when I select a certain option what the general theme, at least, is.
Because, like, in previous games, you say exactly what you select.
Mm-hmm.
So at least, you know full well what they're going to say. Did you know that there's a really interesting feature in this game where the other characters can actually acknowledge your name if it's actually on the list of names?
Oh, yeah, like Codsworth, the robot.
Yeah, I
not really a spoiler because you meet him like at the beginning of the game. So.
Yeah. He's one of your companions. Any characters we name, it's not really a spoiler because considering you also have to find them too. But yeah, so for instance, if you have an actual name and you give it to your character, And if it's on the list, other characters in the game will actually call you by the name. It's kind of cool. Unfortunately, I didn't realize that, and I went through the game with my username, so I was like, oh, I really would have liked to see that feature, because that's kind of cool.
Same here, yeah, that's what I did as well.
Is your name actually on the list?
Interesting, you can have names like, I don't know, is this going to be censored? Like fuckface and dumbass.
No, we can say all that. Fuckface, dumbass. Because come on.
Be called fuckface the whole game if you wanted. So that's just awesome.
Wait. Do they actually acknowledge that?
Yes.
Like Contra will be like, "Oh, Master Fuckface, how are you doing?"
Yes.
Really now? I gotta see.
Yeah,
this.
look up the list. There's all kinds of crazy names on there.
That that they actually voiced.
Yeah, and then Jim Sterling, you know who he is, obviously. I guess,
God.
right? Apparently, they
Trying
have
to be
Sterling
clever.
in there, and he believes that they threw that in just for him, which could be highly likely, but I don't know.
I don't know. That's kind of conceited. Like, oh, look at me. I'm so clever, and from trying so hard that game companies actually acknowledge me.
Yeah.
No, sorry. Just no.
Right. Yeah.
Like, my name's actually on the list, but I didn't say anything like, oh, they acknowledge Wizwar. Wizwar's mighty. You must, yada, yada, yada. No, just no.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to conversations, and also going back to the perk system. It took me a little while to notice, but I found that, like, the speech checks you do in this game are kind of worthless.
Yeah, it's totally based on attributes, really, and then occasionally
No,
a certain perk
like-
might help in certain situations, but
Wait,
for
really?
the most part, it's attributes.
I didn't know certain perks actually helped in certain conversations.
If I remember right, yes, it does. Like, well, it may
In
give you
4?
like different conversation options, if I remember right. But
Well, there's the not humiliate, but like threaten, which presumably uses strength, and then other stuff, charisma, where you try to talk it through. What I'm basically trying to say is, like, unlike previous games, it doesn't really. Because whenever I used it, it just gives you XP and you got a little bit more out of the story. It didn't do anything like it got you past the guard, or it's like, it stopped combat or avoided combat, anything like
sometimes,
that.
yeah, it does. I've gotten out of combat scenarios with conversation before.
Oh, like which one? Because I don't really, like,
I don't know specifically offhand right now, and as a matter of fact, it'd probably be best not to discuss a specific scenario because it might be a spoiler.
well,
But I think I have
depends.
encountered a couple situations like that it was important. It didn't seem as important as Fallout 3 or previous games, obviously.
Yeah, where,
Conversations
like,
did seem a lot more important in those.
Yeah, which goes back to the whole making your character. You really can't make a charismatic character, like a I looked up someone's review of Fallout 4, and they brought up the fact that they weren't able to play as, like, a passive character where that can talk their way through, because if...
Actually, somebody has beat the game without killing anybody.
In the original games? Or
In Fallout 4.
really?
As a matter of fact, it kind of broke the game in certain aspects.
How so?
Just look into it. It's a really interesting read that I saw here. But yeah, some guy actually successfully beat the game with just conversation. He didn't kill anybody. Now, that's to say that there was situations that people did die. He just had nothing to do with their death.
No. Well, That's
Yeah.
interesting. I have to see, because from the review I saw, like, the guy tried to be charismatic and sneaky, but he still had to have some points in combat to, like, actually survive the game.
Yeah. Well, the guy had to exploit some certain things. He had to do a lot of save loads, obviously.
Oh,
And,
see, then... okay. In a natural progression of the game, without doing those save loads and stuff, being a charismatic character in Fallout 4 is not that viable.
Right,
I find.
right. I mean, yeah, there are situations where you have to get into combat.
The review I was talking about also said, like, this game is kind of kill crazy. Like, it's just always combat after combat after combat. And after thinking about it, I was like, yeah. I mean, sure, in other games you killed 90% of the time, but this one in Fallout 4, that's pretty much 90% of the game. Like even more so. Like, every encounter, it's just like, I don't talk with people. Well, nobody talks with raiders. You just shoot them on sight. But it's just mostly combat after combat. Like, I liked it, but I can't deny that, Fallout 4 is rather a little too actiony for a Fallout game.
I I think it kind of goes into earlier when I was mentioning the world felt more alive. There is definitely a lot more stuff you encounter
Yes,
in this
indeed.
game than there was in the past games, like as far as the frequency of how often you encounter stuff. And not all of it is aggressive, obviously, but it could potentially be if you're an evil character, right? So,
Or because your radar said like, oh, this character's enemy.
yeah. And there is actually some circumstances where you might find a red enemy that may not aggro on you.
Some special cases.
Yeah. But for the most part, yeah, it does seem more actiony. But I think it's mainly kind of drew to the fact that the world is more alive. There just seems to be more characters in the world to encounter, both random and
Quests.
preset characters.
Yeah, preset. So, moving on to mods. All right, so instead of handing it to Down Phoenix, I'll talk about this first. Okay, so mods in Fallout. There were mods in the previous games, like in the first game where you could upgrade your plasma rifle, which was pretty badass, making it use one less action point to shoot. But it was kind of limited there. And then in Fallout 2, you actually had mods where you could attach something to your weapons to give it more ammo or give it burst fire or something like that. Still limited, but it was there. 3 didn't really have any mods going for it because
Did have repairs though.
okay, yeah, but that didn't really but that's not really a mod. So like
Right,
I meant
and
something that would change the weapon and like the way it functions.
Yeah.
And but still, going back to the mods, it's pretty awesome. And I really liked it. It's really free and open.
Yeah, the mods were really nice the way they implemented it. I mean, it takes a couple different things. First of all, if you're a fan of a game series like Borderlands, where there is like randomly generated guns
And
that you
can
can have like millions of different kinds of guns.
and
this
never
is-
getting the one you want.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in this game, it's kind of like that, except you eventually can get the one you want because you can pick out different pieces, different scopes and stocks and magazines and barrels and all kinds of stuff, for these guns. And there's even some modding with the melee, but like the actual melee combat, that's kind of really bare bones.
The little bits of footage I saw of Fallout 4, the modding really got me kind of hooked. I was like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool," and it is. Although, once you have you've put points into the modding perks, it kind of actually gets a little weaker towards the end because you're always gonna be getting the best mods, right? I mean, why would you ever get like the weakest mods? There's no benefit to it, and the only reason you got those earlier was because you weren't able to use the higher mods. And there are some differences, like for instance with the guns, you could put automatic fire or non-automatic. I never really used the non-automatics because the damage reduction was really low. Like it only did 1/3 of what the non-automatic would do. And then it didn't, and it's not helped by the fact that the modding for the melee weapons is less. Like with Down Phoenix says with the guns, like how many things could you mod on the gun, Down Phoenix? Like just like the categories.
There's for some weapons, there's 12 or more categories of things you can choose.
Well, okay. Wait. I meant sort of like the class, barrel, magazine, stock,
Yeah,
scope,
that's
and
what
all
I'm
that.
referring to. For some weapons, there's like 12 or more different things you can kind of sort through, like different categories is what I mean. Not like 12 possible attachments total, but yeah.
But in each one, there's like a whole ton you could do.
Yeah, some of them were kind of limited, but sometimes you had like a dozen or more different types of attachments for each weapons. Like you could have. Yeah, it didn't really have mods, but it had more of a crafting system. Like
Yes, it did.
You can
Yes,
create things, but yeah.
Yeah, not counting that. But yeah, it did. And I don't think I made use of that function in 4 if it was ever there. But in New Vegas, it did the same thing with Fallout 2 where you could get certain pieces of like mod pieces that you can add onto your weapons. Like you could add a scope to your hunting rifle, a laser sighters, like faster chambering and all that stuff. Limited, but it was still there. Fallout 4, the modding is amazing. I gotta say, I spent so many hours, or at least from what's available to you, to
Yeah.
mod whatever you want, make your gun more powerful, make it shoot faster, make it more accurate, and all that stuff. And it's pretty awesome. When I saw the